I'm proud of my time serving on a dozen different boards of directors. And I'm proud of my efforts to forge global business relationships. For 6 years, MAGA Republicans, including members of the House committees who are in a closed-door session right now, have impugned my character, invaded my privacy, attacked my wife, my children, my family, and my friends. They have ridiculed my struggle with addiction, they have belittled my recovery, and they have tried to dehumanize me, all to embarrass and damage my father, who has devoted his entire public life to service. For 6 years, I have been the target of the unrelenting Trump attack machine, shouting, "Where's Hunter?" Well, here's my answer. I am here. Let me state as clearly as I can. My father was not financially involved in my business, not as a practicing lawyer, not as a board member of Burisma, not in my partnership with a Chinese private businessman, not in my investments at home nor abroad, and certainly not as an artist. During my battle with addiction, my parents were there for me. They literally saved my life. They helped me in ways that I will never be able to repay. Of course, they would never expect me to. And in the depths of my addiction, I was extremely irresponsible with my finances. But to suggest that is grounds for an impeachment inquiry is beyond the absurd. It's shameless. There is no evidence to support the allegations that my father was financially involved in my business because it did not happen. James Comer, Jim Jordan, Jason Smith, and their colleagues have distorted the facts by cherry-picking lines from a bank statement, manipulating text I sent, editing the testimony of my friends and former business partners, and misstating personal information that was stolen from me. There is no fairness or decency in what these Republicans are doing. They have lied over and over about every aspect of my personal and professional life. So much so that their lies have become the false facts believed by too many people. No matter how many times it is debunked, they continue to insist that my father's support of Ukraine against Russia is the result of a non-existent bribe. They displayed naked photos of me during an oversight hearing. And they have taken the light of my dad's love, for me, and presented it as darkness. They have no shame. These same committee chairmen have engaged in unprecedented political interference in what would have already been a 5-year investigation of me. Yet, here I am, Mr. Chairman, taking up your offer when you said we can bring these people in for depositions or committee hearings, whichever they choose. Well, I am here to testify at a public hearing today to answer any of the committee's legitimate questions. Republicans do not want an open process where Americans can see their tactics, expose their baseless inquiry, or hear what I have to say. What are they afraid of? I'm here. I'm ready.
Hunter, are you willing to go across? Why not
testify now? Why not? Mr. Biden, if you really are not involved in your
this deposition.
Mr. Biden, if your dad was not involved, why did you call him at your business dinner? Mr. Biden.
Good morning, everybody. We have just returned from the attempted deposition of Hunter Biden. Mr. Biden and his attorney had repeatedly responded to Chairman Comer's request that he come and speak before the committee. For example, on September 13th, Chairman Comer went on Newsmax and said, Hunter Biden is more than welcome to come in front of the committee. If he wants to clear his good name, if he wants to come and say, you know, there weren't 20 shell companies, they actually did something, he's invited today. We'll drop everything. Again, on October 31st, on the podcast, The Benny Johnson Show, Chairman Comer stated, we have mountains of evidence, and now we're ready to bring them in. We're in the downhill phase of this investigation now because we have so many documents, and we can bring these people in for depositions or committee hearings, whichever they choose, and so on. Hunter Biden, through his attorney, contacted the committee and said he was ready and willing to come today, December 13th, 2023, at 9:30 to this place to appear before the committee, as the chairman had repeatedly stated. And Chairman Comer and Chairman Jordan would not take yes for an answer. Why? Because they wanted to conduct the deposition in a closed-door interview, so the public couldn't see it, and so they could continue to cherry-pick little pieces of evidence and distort and misrepresent what had taken place there. And this is a pattern that Hunter Biden and his lawyer clearly observed, that members of this committee have observed, has been taking place for many months now. There are 14 transcribed interviews that are out there, and only 2 have been released. I'm sorry, there are a total of 16, and only 2 have been released to the public. So there's still 14 transcribed interviews that Chairman Comer has not released to the public. I called upon him today to release those transcribed interviews to the public so that the various witnesses are not subject to the distortion and mischaracterization of their statements. That process is interfering with the work of this committee, because witnesses don't want to come in only to have a closed-door deposition and then have their words mangled and misrepresented to the public through selective leaks and an orchestrated choreography of false narratives. So we are disappointed that we were not able to hear from Hunter Biden today. We are certain that that little particle of evidence would support everything else we've seen through the last 11 months of investigation, which is that President Biden has done nothing wrong. They have not laid a glove on President Biden, and they have no evidence of him committing any offense, much less an impeachable offense. So this is where we are. We take it that the Republicans, if they can get their votes together, are planning to vote to conduct an impeachment inquiry today, a repetition of everything that we've seen over the last 11 months. But we are in a remarkable juncture for the U.S. House of Representatives, because this is an impeachment inquiry where no one has been able to define what criminal or constitutional offense they're looking for. We don't know what the crime is. You know, the mysteries are called a whodunit, because it starts with a crime and then you try to determine who committed it. This is more like a what is it, not a whodunit. We don't know what the crime is, and there are thousands and thousands of pages of evidence, but all of the evidence demonstrates beyond any reasonable doubt that President Joe Biden is not guilty of any impeachable offense that we can determine. And with that, I'm going to call.
Just one more point to add on to this, and to also address some of the questions that were raised earlier. I think it's important to note here that the committee issued a subpoena, and Hunter Biden is here in an attempt to comply with that subpoena. It is the committee that has rejected the terms that they themselves set out for compliance with that subpoena that is now preventing a public and due process from happening. So when folks try to raise things that may have happened with other investigations or January 6th, whatever that may be, witnesses that were called and subpoenaed during that time did not even make an attempt to comply with the subpoena. The chairman laid out himself the terms of what compliance looks like. He said compliance with this subpoena means that you can show up either in private or in public, whichever you choose. And when his own option was chosen, he decided to reject it at the last minute. Secondly, it's also important to note that not only is the committee not allowing Hunter Biden to testify publicly, but they have not called a single witness, a single first-hand witness to any of their allegations. They haven't allowed anybody to testify publicly because they do not have a single witness to any of their alleged allegations. They don't. We have asked virtually every single person that has come to testify for this committee, have you seen, witnessed, participated in a room, anything with first-hand testimony of any of what is being alleged? And every single witness that they have called before us has said no. I haven't seen anything, didn't heard anything, wasn't party to anything. So this is just storytelling at this point. This is a nice story. And to add to the ranking member Raskin's questions, this is not just a whodunit, it's not just a what is it, but it's also a where's the beef? And they don't have any. So this right now is a waste of our time, and we should go back to legislating for the actual benefit of the American people. And with that, I yield back.
Great. Ms. Stansbury, I think.
All right. Well, I'll say what I said just a moment ago. Chairman Jordan and I have been very clear. We issued a lawful subpoena to the president's son. This has been a 10-month investigation, a credible, transparent investigation that has produced a lot of troubling evidence. We have lots of questions. Hopefully you all have had an opportunity to go in the committee room and see the boxes of documents that we've accumulated, tens of thousands of pages of documents. We have lots of specific questions. This is an investigation about public corruption at the highest levels of our government. The American people expect Congress to investigate this because I think one thing that Chairman Jordan's proven is the FBI, the DOJ, and the IRS, as we've heard from the whistleblowers, have all dropped the ball. So the House Oversight, House Judiciary Committee are conducting this credible investigation that an overwhelming majority of Americans want. We have specific questions for the president's son. He does not get to dictate the terms of this subpoena.
I would just point out that I've had a chance now to review what Hunter Biden said in his press conference, and I think he made an interesting statement. He said his father was not financially involved in the business. And I think that qualifier, the word financially, is important because, once again, it shows another change in this story. First it was no involvement, then no, I never talked to anyone, and then we find out about the dinners, the meetings, the phone calls, and everything else. Now it's okay, he wasn't involved in the business financially. I think that is important. It's one of the reasons we want to talk to Hunter Biden. Second thing I would say is this: in a few hours, I think the House of Representatives is going to pass the impeachment inquiry, and that is an important step. If you talk to any scholars in this, I think we could proceed as we did under Speaker McCarthy where he announced it, but this is an important step. The impeachment power resides solely with the House of Representatives. If a majority of the House now says we're in an official impeachment inquiry as part of our constitutional duty to do oversight, that carries weight. That's going to help us get these witnesses in. And maybe most importantly, regarding this morning's activities, this is the argument that the White House and Hunter Biden's counsel used to say he shouldn't come. Okay, we disagree. We thought he should have been here. But when we take that vote this afternoon, what's our argument going to be then? We think he should come in. And if he doesn't, we're gonna move forward with contempt proceedings. There's a process we have to follow, but we plan to do that.
Jordan, one thing Hunter Biden said this morning was Republicans have mocked his addiction.
I have not.
For Chairman Comer or Congressman, what do you think of that idea that he's saying you guys are
I'm not.
mocking addiction?
We've never mocked his addiction. Again, this is an investigation of Joe Biden. Hunter Biden's a key witness because we have a simple question, and the majority of Americans have a question. What did the Bidens do to receive tens of millions of dollars from our enemies around the world? That's a simple question. Every American wants to know. What did you do to receive the money? And we also want to know what role Joe played, because, quite frankly, it's hard for me to believe, I'll speak for myself, that all these oligarchs and the Chinese Communist Party were wiring Hunter Biden millions of dollars because they liked him, because he added value to something. We believe, as what Devin Archer testified in the transcribed interview, that they were selling the brand and Joe Biden was the brand. And we believe that Joe Biden's known about this all along, because he hasn't been honest with the American people. As Chairman Jordan said, his story continues to change. In the very beginning, when we launched this investigation, Joe Biden said he never met with any of these individuals. Now we know he met with all of these individuals. The narrative when we started this investigation was that no money ever transferred to the Bidens while Joe Biden was vice president. Now we know a huge percentage of the money transferred while Joe Biden was vice president. The majority of the shell companies were incorporated while Joe Biden was vice president. So we have a lot of questions about some very concerning transfers. That's why we have the thousands of pages of bank records. We've been very transparent with the media. This has been, I think, the most transparent political or congressional investigation since I've been in Congress for 7 years. We've produced 4 bank memorandums with specific bank statements. I mean, this is a concern. This is about public corruption at the highest levels. And, the president's son does not get to set the rules. I mean, he's had a pretty good run with the Department of Justice, with the IRS, and with the FBI. But these 2 committees are going to hold firm. We have taken steps to go by the book in this investigation. Now we're in the phase where we do the depositions, and what he did today is unacceptable.
Some Republicans I talked to in the committee say they do think the evidence is already there. They feel like they've seen enough to actually file articles of impeachment. But you two, Chairman, do you feel like you've seen enough now? Personally?
I've said all along, I think the evidence is compelling. But we still need to talk to Mr. Schwerin, Mr. Walker, Mr. Bob Alinsky, Kevin Morris, Jim Biden, Hunter Biden. We need to talk to the 2 individuals who are part of Blue Star Strategies, Sally Painter and Ms. Tramontano. So those are people we need to talk to. We think with the vote this afternoon, we get those individuals in a more timely fashion, and we get the documents we want. And I would still go back to this. 1 hour ago, I think the biggest takeaway was the statement from Mr. Biden where he said, "My father was not financially involved in the business." That is a huge change, which means he's involved. I think that's how anyone with common sense would read it. He's been involved, just not financially. That is a huge departure from everything they've said now for the last 3.5 years. So, as the chairman pointed out, the White House's story has changed multiple times. The Justice Department story has changed multiple times on how they handle this investigation. But the story that hasn't changed, the testimony that has been consistent and stood up to cross-examination, is the 2 whistleblowers. Their story has not changed, and frankly, it's been buttressed and reinforced by we've done 8 different depositions of people involved in the investigation at the Justice Department, the Hunter Biden investigation, and none of them have refuted what those guys say. So over time, it just keeps changing from the White House, and this statement today, I think, is the biggest news of the morning, I guess, along with the fact that he didn't show up, which he's supposed to do. Thank you all very much. We got to go.
One Jim Biden.